Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Architect AI Lab. This is episode 5 of my AI series, which is AI Fundamental for Business Central Professional. And in our last few episodes, we talk about AI concept, Copilot, AI agent, how AI decide, AI orchestration. But now the point is like how AI connects with Business Central, like how AI knows what Business Central can do. So this is what we will cover today, which is MCP. And firstly, we'll talk about what exactly is MCP, the general architecture of MCP, and then we'll try to map those with our product, which is Business Central, to understand in a more detailed way. So let's get started. So let's start with a simple request where we will ask AI to create a sales order in Business Central. Now, AI knows about my request and Business Central knows about my business. But we need to build something in order to connect AI with Business Central. And in order to make that connection, what we will do, we will create a custom integration because it requires us to build something in order to have that connection done with Business Central. And this custom integration can be, it can be your custom APIs, Power Automate Flow, Azure function, or any service. So the point is that of course that integration can vary based on your scenario, but we need to build something. So for every AI scenario, it requires us to build a new integration for Business Central in order to connect with AI to BC. But we now have a new ways. So with new way, what has happened? This whole custom integration got replaced with MCP. So what has happened now after MCP that Business Central can expose its capabilities in a standard way for AI. So capabilities can be, you can think of your the entities that they have and other things like customer, inventory, orders, purchase, and like that. So like that. So basically, whenever you set up a goal or a task for AI, what it will do, it will go and it will discover and find those capabilities using MCP, and then it will decide like what exactly it's required from those capability in order to complete that task. So this is now the new way with which an AI can connect to Business Central. Now let's go to the MCP documentation and understand about the architecture of MCP. So here I'm at the documentation and the architecture of MCP. And now what are the key participants in the MCP architecture, which is MCP host. So this is nothing but the AI application that you're using there. I mean, you can understand this application something where you're typing in that can be your Copilot Studio or Visual Studio or any chatbot. I mean, anything that you are working on, that is your AI application basically. Then we have an MCP client. So client is what? This is like a component that basically make a connection between the MCP server. Then we have a MCP server. This is where the capability get exposed. And for us, this is Business Central. Now let's go to the Business Central documentation to understand this architecture from Business Central perspective. So I am at this Microsoft Learn documentation where they mention about that MCP is an open standard way through which an AI application can communicate with data source and the tool and provide you a secure way to connect. So as I said, AI client can be your Copilot Studio, GitHub, Claude, anything. And then your server would be, yes, as I said, it's Business Central. Here you can see all those custom APIs, built-in API data are exposed in MCP server within Business Central. Now let's go back to our documentation again on MCP to understand more. So here one another important thing that they have mentioned about, which is primitive. So what exactly is primitive? So these are the most important concept within MCP which require us to understand. And what they do is they define exactly what client and server can offer to each other. So let's understand what primitives a server can expose for the AI application. So first one they mention is tools. So tools are the executable function that AI can use to perform actions. Then we have the resources. These are the data source that provide the context to the AI application. And then we have the prompts. Prompts are nothing but the system instructions and other things that basically do the interaction with your LLM models. And they have provided us that the primitive has a method that you can use like list, get, tool call, and like that. Now let's go back to our documentation, Microsoft documentation, to understand these concepts. So let's go to what MCP server can do. So by default, MCP server provides read-only access to all the exposed Business Central API. So without any configuration, by default, MCP host can read data from your Business Central environment. So this is, we can think of it as a resource, I think, because this read-only data, which is default provided to the MCPs by the MCP server. Now, the next point is in order to perform any actions, you need to configure it. And whatever you will configure, those capabilities are exposed by default as tool. So everything that you will configure will be exposed as tool that you need to take a note here. And by which what you can do, you can allow, view and manage record. You can execute business process. You can answer those natural language queries. And another point that they mention, of course that will depend on how you have configured your, because there are a lot of configuration that you can change and vary based on your requirement, and of course the permission which is assigned for those APIs. And they have mentioned about the supported MCP host that Business Central support, then how MCP connects, and at the end they have mentioned about authentication, that how the host and the server get authenticated using this intra ID. Now let's go to the Business Central product to understand about this MCP feature. Now, with this new version, the good news is that we have this MCP feature as part of this new Business Central version 28 release, because I think till last year everyone was using some GitHub in order to build that MCP server. But now it's very easy and very, you can easily configure in the product. So if you type MCP, you will get a page. So this is a page where you can define your MCP configuration. And it contains a lot of things that you can configure. Now let's understand one by one each of those features. Of course, the first one is a name that you will provide to your MCP server. So that would be, you can think of it as a server name. Then of course you can activate it or deactivate it, or you can make it a default. Then another interesting thing that you can see here is this dynamic tool mode. So you can see here that if you enable it, then the AI will search for those tools with the configuration dynamically. So we will understand about this, what is this dynamic and the static tool mode in more details. And then we have another option like discover additional objects. So we have already seen that by default, Business Central exposes every APIs as a read only as a capability. So if you want those, but it give us a provision as well whether you want to allow those read only objects in or not. If you want, then it can be done using this discover additional object feature. Of course, then we have a description of this description, of course, will help the AI application to understand whether to about this MCP server. And then we have a unblock edit tool. This is nothing but it will allow you, if you want to, like in the if you go down where you can define your object type, there you can define whether you want to allow read, create, and modify, delete, or allow your bound action for this tool. So in order to activate this create, modify, delete and all, you need to enable this feature. If this is I mean, if it's not activated, then of course everything, all those APIs will be, or your custom APIs or standard APIs will be only read will be allowed and other features will be deactivated. So you can see there are a lot of things that you can activate and deactivate based on your request. Now another question of course come in your mind whether when you will configure MCP server whether you will go with this dynamic thing or a static tool mode. So let's go to the documentation from Microsoft itself to understand about this feature. So you can see here why this feature has been included as part of this configuration is that so once this feature is on, agent can search for tools within the configuration dynamically. Why this has been because when this option is useful when you expose a large number of API pages, then some clients have a limit on the number of tools that an agent can check, right? So for example, they have mentioned about Copilot Studio as example that has a limit of 70 tools. So if you add all those APIs and of course in the configuration, only first 70 will be available. So in order to make all those APIs available, so you can enable this dynamic tool mode. So of course this will depend. So now let me show you something like when you enable this dynamic tool, what how AI can check the tools. So when the dynamic mode is off, that is a static mode is on, then how they expose those capability in the tool. The tool naming convention will contain the object name and the page ID. That's what I was talking about. So every tool will be exposed as based on your object number and page ID. So it will be customer page ID like this, item page ID. And so this is a static mode. Now, when the dynamic mode is on, then what it will do? It will use this based on the standard tools. So that will be BC action search, BC action describe, and BC action invoke. So that's the whole difference between this dynamic. So it will be in static, it would be specific because the name is mentioned. But in case of dynamic mode, when we have a lot of tools, then what it will do? It will, of course, use this standard tools. Of course, this will vary based on your requirement and the AI application that you are building on, like what exactly feature you would like to use. So I will quickly give you a quick demo of one of the agent that I've created to show you this MCP. So I created this MCP as vehicle experience request and I've exposed few of the basically APIs. I'm using all the standard one, not in custom one. So item, customer, sales code. So I'm trying to create some quotation for the customer. And you can see here I've disabled the dynamic mode. So basically I'm using a static tool and just created a quick agent so that I can show you. So basically when I ask my experience request that for this item I would like to see. So what it will do, it activate it and go to my MCP and you can see here it calls the tool and the tool naming as a static mode. You can see here list item page. That's what I was talking about. So this is a static mode. Similarly, it open the quotation, then it opened the quotation line based on the, and then it list, then it created the quotation. And then it give me a summary back that this is available, I've created this and reserved it under quotation this. So you can see here a very quick demo, a practical demo as well, the static tool mode. And similarly, if you enable the dynamic one, then you will see those standard tools with invoke, search, and all those. So let's bring it all together. So we have seen a new way through which AI can connect to Business Central, the architecture of an MCP, and then map it with the Business Central product. And we have seen like how we can configure MCP directly within a Business Central itself for our AI application. So I hope I'm able to make you understand this MCP concept in Business Central. And in our next episode, we will talk about responsible AI from a Business Central perspective. Thank you all for watching and subscribing to my channel. And if you have not subscribed me yet, then do subscribe and join me in this AI journey. And see you all in the next episode.